Namaste everyone. Hope all of you are doing good. Welcome to the lecture 5 of the course Strength of Materials part 1. So in today's topic we will be discussing about stress system. So before understanding what it is, let me show you some examples. So here what you see, a bicycle in a close-up view, where you can see this is sprocket system, pedals, these mechanisms interconnected to each other, right? This chain system, everything. So here what you can observe is what happens. My question is, what happens when you pedal forward? That means in a clockwise direction from this view. This sprocket will turn in clockwise direction. Then what is happening? It means that you are pedaling forward. What is happening at that time? How it is maneuvering, that motion in forward direction comes in as the sprocket rotates in clockwise direction. That means at this point it is pulling the chain forward. In that chain there is another sprocket behind to the rear, connected to the rear wheel, that turns this wheel like this in clockwise direction. In this way this entire thing will work out. That bicycle will be moving forward. These things you know, very basic, right? But observe one thing there. What is happening with this chain? The chain is at every point, wherever cross section you take, the chain is being pulled to this direction due to this sprocket motion. At the same time, it is always under tension. Why? Say in close-up view, when we see here, let me change the ink so that you can see it clearly. So when you observe any link, what's happening there is the link in rear to it, the link take these two sections for example. This link will try to pull this link towards this side. This link will try to pull this main link, our main link understudy, towards forward side. So this forward side, because sprocket is moving in clockwise direction in this way and pulling the chain forward, pulling the chain in forward direction. Okay, but what's happening is in the rear, for the rear wheel also we have sprocket, right? For the rear wheel also sprocket is connected, which provides certain level of resistance, which we overcome by pedaling forward again, and then the bicycle moves. Due to that little bit of resistance, a little bit of stresses are also generated. So how that stresses, say for example, I'm just for shape purpose, for conceptual purpose I'm drawing this. This may not be exactly looking like that link. So in this link, this is one part, this is one part, and these pins, there are two pins as well. So all together, that assembly together, in this shell is also there. This what is the exact terminology we will study in theory of machines. For now, to make you understand the concept here, I'm saying that this outer shell that serves like a, you can say it is like a bearing, like, but not exactly bearing, and these pins and these two, these all together becomes one link. So there are different components within link again. Now I will take one among them, one component. Since I said every cross section, wherever you take, there is a force forward, to certain extent resisting it, there is a force backwards as well. Force P. So this P, I am talking about resistive forces. There is actually extra force there, due to which this entire system is moving forward. I am not talking about the entire force. I am not talking about the entire force that you are applying on this pedal. That is very excessive, in excessive to this resistance. That's why only this sprocket is able to move, this chain is able to move forward, and correspondingly this wheel turns, rear wheel turns, and the bicycle moves forward. So I'm not talking about that force which the torque that you are applying on the pedal in entirety. Among that, a small fraction of force is needed to overcome the resistance due to rear sprocket and the entire inertia of the body, because inertia of the body causes a resistance to motion, right? So in that, the chain itself will be under certain level of inertia. So due to resistance forces come into play, we will not go into very deep into those details. There are very simple concepts only. One is inertia, the other is when it is being pulled forward due to pedaling, there is certain level of there is also resistance in backward direction due to that sprocket thing, rear sprocket. Internal to this link component, whatever it is, internal to this, at every cross section, what happens, as I said earlier, when there are two forces, when there are resisting forces acting on particular block or an element or a component, stresses arise within the body in that direction. So here the force is acting on single direction, one direction. So stresses will also arise in that particular direction. Okay. So resistance, one direction, resistive loads, accordingly stresses will also act in one direction. That is unidirectional stress system. Unidirectional. What is this stress system? We will learn shortly, don't worry. Unidirectional stress system. That in this system only one stress is there, that is this only the stress due to this force P, which we call it as generally normal stress sigma. That's it. And in this case it is tension. Some other case, in some other application it can be compression also, but in this bicycle application, this chain, it is tension. This is very simple one, right? Only one direction force. Let us see another example, a little bit complicated, but still try to see it. Here this block, this weight, the metal block is being lifted upwards. Just a minute. Is being lifted upwards, right? Using this crane hook. But this hook, what happened? This block is connected using different rods. This can be rods, hoses, or depending on the weight of the block, we use particular material. That is again a design aspect. So what kind of components we use to lift this depend on weight of this block and the nature of the block, the metal, plastic, whatever it is. So in this case it is a metal, in this case these are rods actually, little bit of slightly flexible rods. So this, when I say rods or bars, they are usually used to support either tension or compression, uniaxial only again. But what happening here, this is a joint, this is a joint, this is a joint. At these all points, what is happening? Rods are arising out. So this entire load is falling on these rods or these bars, whatever you may call it, or hoses. So this entire weight of this entire block is being lifted by these, is being bare by these rods, and from where they are lifting? By being jointed or attached to this particular joints, these particular places, specific places like this, right? So at those points, what kind of forces come into play due to these rods? Since rods are trying to lift it, they are applying certain force on this block. Let me draw you to clarify that. Say for example, this is the block we have. So here is one joint. I am not drawing everything, I am drawing just two examples. So here is one rod that is going like this, and here is another rod that is going like this. These both are pulling this upwards like this, not vertically straightly upward, but upwards above the horizontal plane, above side the horizontal plane. Now observe, these all rods, this 1, this 2, this 3, this 4, all rods that we see here joining at this particular point, a crane hook. And when this is the crane hook, say for example, at that point when you project it on this surface of the block, it is somewhere near the center. That means it not near this, away from those both. These are exterior points. This point number 1, point number 2 are exterior points on the surface, near the surface of the block. But this point is somewhere near center of gravity. So what is happening there? So, and these rods or hoses that I am talking about is join this point 2 to this point, join this point 1 to this point. This point is joint connection, we can say connection or whatever it is, just for namesake I am naming it as a connection point. So there they are meeting, whose projection is somewhere near center of gravity, projection onto the plate. It is something like in higher secondary school you might have studied, if this is x-axis, if this is z-axis, if vertical one is y-axis, if there is a point in space whose radial vector when joined to origin, this in space there is a possibility. What is the possibility? It makes an incline to x-axis, incline to y-axis, and incline to z-axis. Incline to z-axis. So alpha, beta, gamma, these angles, everything you might have studied, right? Locating a point in space, all those things. Sine alpha, sine beta, sine gamma, cos alpha, cos beta, cos gamma. So there are different things that we have studied in the secondary school, higher secondary. So actually here the prime focus here is, when there were only two axes in engineering mechanics, when we discussed for two-dimensional forces in engineering mechanics, when we studied for xy plane, when there is certain force F, it was having two components, Fx and vertical component Fy. But in this case, for example, if this is the force vector, it is making angle with everything, x, y and z, all the three. Say for example, I am taking one of the rods, this rod number 2, say for example. So to make you more clearer, I am not drawing everything here, just trying to draw a few things. So this is the point number 2. At this point 2, how things are acting? There is this rod that is going inwards. Inwards in the sense, when I draw a vertical line through that connection point, what happens? It will meet this particular weight at certain point, which is away from the point number 2, inwards. Just I have shown you right here, right? So this point, that connection where all rods are joining, this point, that is somewhere in between, in the middle, center. When you see from the top view, here there is a connection, here there is a joint, here there is a joint. All these come and meet at this point from top view. So this is, at this point, we link it to crane hook, right? So that point, I'm talking about that point. So this is point number 2, this is point number 1 that I have shown here. So from point number 2, this rod is going inwards. When you see in top, when you see in sideways, this will be somewhat view. But on this every rod, what is happening? Weight of this, every rod is sharing weight of this particular blank or block. So what happens? Those rods in turn try to pull this weight in upward direction like this, say force F. Now this is x direction, this is y direction, this is z direction, and there is some force in space that is acting in F. So there are 3 components from it. So this direction is inwards, this z is out of plane, but here this is acting inwards, means into the plane, towards going in towards this point, so into the plane. So when we try to find components of F, this is Fz acting in negative z direction, and there is a component in x direction that is acting Fx, that is in negative x direction. And since it is upward this horizontal plane, central plane, so there will be some component Fy, which is in positive y direction. So there are, what are the components here? Fx, Fy, Fz acting on this particular point. But this point is staying within the block, right? It is not coming out. It is not just breaking away from the plank and coming out. It is staying within. It is being attached to it. It is like a joint between this rod and this plank or block. This is not coming out. It is not failing. It is strong, stiff. So it is not coming out. That means what is happening? This rod is trying to pull out this point 2, but this point 2 is being strongly attached to this block. So on this point 2, there will be resistance force in response to this Fx, Fy, Fz that are being applied by this rod. When I say there is a resistance, automatically there are stresses acting in those directions. There can be more, but for now what I am trying to say is that stresses are coming out in 3 directions. So it is 3-directional stress system. In a very simple way, I am trying to show you the things. So what do you see here? Here we have seen one example based on which what we got, a 3-dimensional or 3-directional stress system, 3-dimensional basically. And in the previous one, simple one, what we have seen in bicycle one, unidirectional. So depending on our application, whether it is bicycle chain or whether it is a rod or whether it is a weight that is being lifted by rods, different set of rods at different points, Depending on what kind of application we are using the component, for which we are using the component, different kinds of stresses get set into the component. So trying to generalize, these are application based, unidirectional, or whether what it is, we are trying to assess things by application. But what if we want to learn everything on a very general way? When I say general way, in space, it can, what we have, there are three, when I say Cartesian coordinate system, I will have x, y and z, right? And say for example, I am taking a cube here. So when I am taking a cube, why I am taking a cube? Let's see that first. So whichever component, say I am taking this particular component. So in this, at every section stresses are arising, right? So at certain section, I am trying to take a very small element. Every element is under tension. I'm considering one element to study what kind of stresses are there. For this, from the application, we know that it is a tensile stress, but let us see. When I take this out, I can assume it of different shapes: sphere, rectangle, sphere, cuboid, trapezoid, anything. But since we are dealing with Cartesian coordinate system, where it is three-dimensional Cartesian coordinate system. Hence, for dealing with Cartesian coordinate system, if we assume this particular element to be cuboid, then it is easier for us. Elemental volume, very small volume. I am showing you here it in a big way, but very small, infinitesimally small, of length dx, width dz, and height dy. Very small. So what I mean to say is, this is that small element. So this is length dx, this is width dz, this is height dy. Very small element, infinitesimally small element, or we can simply say, for this elemental volume, what it is, dx into dy into dz. It is very small. On that, when we try to study what kind of stresses are setting in, because this element lies at a certain cross section in the component, when we try to study that, we need to first know few things about this Cartesian coordinate system. So when we are looking from this side into the plane, this is the face 1, this is the second face, the rear one is third face, and this one is fourth face. So these are 4 faces, lateral faces, and the bottom one will be 5 and the top one will be 6. So there are 6 faces, right? Face 1 and face 2, face 3. Observe these two. So let me erase few things so that we can have some space. Now observe face number 1, 3. 1 is front one, 3 is rear one. How they are? For both of them are vertical, and their normal is perpendicular to z axis. So these we call as z faces, or faces whose orientation is perpendicular to z direction. Z faces. Z face is basically how it is in the plane of xy plane, right? So it either in the xy plane or parallel to xy plane. This face number 1, front face, and the rear face, face number 3, these 3 faces, how are they? They are vertical. This is vertical. Front face, both front face and back face. When we see in this direction, this will be x-axis, this will be y-axis, and this will be z-axis, which is out of plane. Now this is z face. or xy phase. We can call it either way. Similarly, phase number 2 comma 4 are vertical but perpendicular to x-axis, so they are x phases. We call it as x phase, or they are actually parallel to yz plane, so or yz phase, whichever way we can call. Basically, we can generally the faces, the planar faces or planes are usually characterized by their normal direction. So since this phase number 2 and phase number 4 have normal to x direction, they are x phase. Similarly, 5 and 6, top and bottom surface or bottom and top surface or faces, these are perpendicular to y direction, so they are y phase, right? Y phase. And these things you have to remember first. Okay, now what we studied here in these examples, that at any point you take infinitesimally small, at that section also stresses can arise depending on the application, whether it is unidirectional in this case, or whether it is for this point, this point again can be considered to be composed of different elements. Within this is a point, in this again small cuboids can be there. So every cuboid, when you take, at every phase there are forces whose components can be resolved as fx, fy and fz. So 3-dimensional. So depending on application, different levels of stresses come into play. So to generalized way, when you try to study what's happening there, very generalized way. What I mean to say generalized way is, let us see here now itself. It is exactly not cuboid, but assume it is a cuboid. So this is phase, x phase, right? This is also x phase, this is also x phase. Within this element, what I said, there can be a same sigma, the force accordingly the stress, sigma xx. How this is there, we will discuss in this. Now what we are going to discuss is all about stresses, that is sigma ij, where I means direction of phase or phase direction. Phase direction. This j will be stress direction. Now in this way, this is x direction, this is y direction, this is z direction. Now in x phase, this phase is x phase, right? Number 2, x phase, x direction stress, or there can be so happen that it can be x phase but in y direction, this stress, x phase but y direction, or it can be acting like this also. So this one will be, it is acting on x phase but is acting in z direction, this one. So one is this direction, another is this direction, and another is this direction. On which phase? This phase, x phase. Similar is case here also. There can be a stress depending on external load in what application we are using this component. There can be a stress in y phase in y direction, sigma yy, or there can be a stress in sigma y phase but in z direction, or there can be sigma y phase x direction. Similarly in front also, I am drawing only on second phase, sixth phase and first phase. Just opposite to this, in opposite directions, or in there are forces in phase number 4, phase number 5 and phase number 3 also. So just symmetric way. Now I am talking about phase number 1, this phase, front phase. So there can be a stress sigma in z phase, z direction. There can be sigma z phase x direction. There can be sigma z phase x direction. So basically when you see it, say when you take phase number 1, which is perpendicular to z direction, there can be a stress sigma zz, there can be a stress sigma zx, there can be a stress sigma z, y. Similarly, when you take when you take this face number 2, which is perpendicular to x direction, there can be stress sigma x direction x, stress in x direction, sigma of x face z direction, sigma x face y direction. Similarly, for top face, there can be sigma y face in y direction, stress on y face in x direction, stress on y face in z direction. So what you observe here, number of stresses, stress number 1, 2, 3, stress number 4, 5, 6, again stress number 7, 8, 9. So when you write everything on one place as a matrix, what we get? Sigma ij matrix will be equal to sigma xx, sigma xy, sigma xz, sigma yx, sigma yy, sigma yz, sigma zx, sigma zy, sigma zz. So this is a 3 by 3 matrix. You all know about matrices, right? 3 by 3 matrix. That means 9 stresses in different directions. Okay, this is one point to note. Another point to note is observe here. When you take, say for example, plane number 1 or face number 1, this ZZ is normal to the face in the Z, on the Z face in the Z direction. It is normal to the face, this ZZ. So this is normal stress. But observe these two. These are in x direction and y direction, but they're parallel, right? Parallel to this plane, x and y components. So they're parallel means when a stress is parallel to given surface, isn't it a shear stress? So these both are shear stresses. Similar is the case with here also. Observe this place, this top surface. To this top surface, this sigma yy, this is normal stress because it is perpendicular in direction. But these two are parallel to this horizontal plane. So this face itself. So they are shear stresses, right? So what we observe here in sigma ij, when I equal to j, x, y, z, I mean these three one. These are normal stresses. When I equals to j, then that refers to normal stresses. Okay, and again, since both are same, generally we can denote it with a single notation, sigma I or sigma j, whether it is x, whether it is y, whether it is j. That means sigma x, sigma y, sigma z. So others are shear stresses, right? When I is not equal to j, it is a shear stress, right? That's what we have learned till now, shear stress. And now when I say shear stress, generally in the initial classes we told that generally we denote it by tau. So instead of sigma, we can replace these sigmas by taus. When we try to do that, I think I have to add. Okay, we will draw here. So what is happening there is we can rewrite it as sigma ij equals to sigma x, tau xy, tau xz, tau yx, sigma y, tau yz, tau zx, tau zy, sigma z. So this is a modified version. So the system of stress system means these are all the stresses that are possible. I'm not saying that every stress exists. Depending on our application, say for example, in this case, only linear stress in x direction, it was generally, when I say one direction, we take it as x direction. So only one stress is there. So only this component exists. All others are zeros. And again, in this case, in this application, when we take point number 2, say for example, for the point number 2, there are only 3 stresses, sigma x, sigma y, sigma z. The others, all stresses will be 0. So depending on the application, some of these stresses will become 0, others will be non-zero. It can be positive or negative. Say if these 3 are positive, that means tensile case. Any of them is negative, that means in that direction compression stress is acting. So that depends on the direction. But anyhow, now you have understood that maximum possible cases are 9 components, 9 stress components. 3 are tensile, remaining 6 are shear. So this system of all these stresses together, this matrix, we call it as a stress system. Right? That is the heading of this session, stress system. Right? In the next session, we will see that this sigma ij is symmetric. How that is symmetric, we will see in the next session. What I mean by this is symmetric means tau xy will be equals to tau yx. Tau xz will be equals to tau zx. And tau yz equals to tau zy. So this thing, how this has become, why it is so, we will study in the next class. That's all for this session. Thank you.